if we are now to move things forward, and we are assuming that Bob has been successful in going through that process and has effectively sold the business and is expecting the funds, and where I think Susanna and I would work together is really working out what the client is aiming to do with this, if we call it sort of retirement, what actually are the sort of the income needs and what is his drivers. And there is certainly an education piece from my side into to discussing with the client actually what do the different investment options actually look like for him, and what can the asset classes achieve for him, and whether actually what his desire is achievable, and also to understand whether he is happy to give up control of the assets, and whether his driver is around income, spending capital, or whether inheritance tax is a major driver. But in this scenario, if we were to assume that Bob, to a certain extent, is happy to give up a certain amount of control, but also actually wants a fairly hefty income from the assets in a tax efficient way. One of the things that I think that we would look at, and I sort of defer to Susanna on this, is setting up potentially an investment company, and it'd be useful for Suzanne to talk about maybe the size and scale of what an investment company might look like, a family investment company.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think you're right. Family investment companies offer a really good tax efficient way to continue to control the assets, but to start to pass assets along to the next generation, and certainly are worth considering as part of the overall strategy for inheritance tax, succession and wealth planning. So I certainly wouldn't put all of my eggs in one basket with a family investment company, for example. But for most business people in particular, they're really familiar with the concept of a company, so they're really comfortable with a family investment company idea, and it makes it an attractive vehicle for them. A further attraction is that they're really flexible, so we can bespoke the family investment company to suit the family circumstances or their requirements. So in this example, so for Bob and his wife might decide to set up the family investment company, and they would have A shares with the voting rights, there would be directors, and then they might give B shares to the children, which would have the income rights and return on capital rights. And then they might have C shares, for example, for the grandchildren, which they might decide to put in a trust.
I think as a result of generally in terms of the market and how we're going to see that play out, we're going to obviously see a significant amount of push by buyers to reduce valuations, to negotiate quite difficult deals, put in quite stringent indemnities and warranties. Maybe we'll even see termination clauses, in particular things like the material adverse change clause, which I think is coming more familiar to more people in terms of the buyer's protection in the longer term as the deal progresses. And I think also, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about the tax, is that we're also seeing buyers trying to protect value in the future in terms of what they're trying to buy, and look to find a mechanism to preserve that value in the future, and move away from lockbox mechanisms or fixed price mechanisms into an earn-out arrangement where they can hopefully have not some guarantee, but have some prospect that there is an attunement to the people who might be working in the business going forward and the future success of that business. So certainly pegging deferred consideration to future performance is a key driver here. And also, I think sellers are going to have to see protection or seek protection in somehow trying to find ways to seek a guarantee over deferred payments, maybe try and bring forward deferred payments as much as possible, post-completion covenants and so forth.